Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, the Big and Furry Bovine. Joining me, Tony the Calf and Brian on the panel. I want to start out the program today. You know how emotional the post-game shows can be, and I referenced a panelist member, Derek Frisbee, and was kind of disappointed in some of the things that he tweeted. And I wanted to personally apologize because the intention of mine in a live program was not to call the young man a liar. That was me talking over myself because this is an unscripted program. And the MKCs of the world and and it isn't so much, it's the network people, it's the Colin Cowherd people who are making such a big, grand, thing about this, and especially the Cleveland.com site, that I shouldn't have lumped him in with those people. Derek's a good kid. He's a straight shooter. He has his opinion, and he is not a liar. I want to point that out and say that I'm sorry personally. That's not where I wanted to go with that. Matter of fact, I respect his opinion on the draft and have for years, because I'm just not a big college football watcher. So with that all said and done, I wanted to start out the program, guess what, by sharing my screen. And this is becoming more common as we go. And okay, let's see if I can. The one thing I never understood is these things don't come up in order necessarily. But I'm gonna get this, by golly, if it takes me. Wait a sec here. All right, and I think. Let me see if this is gonna function. Okay, here we go. And I'm gonna share this. We ready? Here we go. You see this?
That's what you do when you fight with your teammates, right? When you fight with your teammates for 60 minutes. Yeah. That's that feeling, okay? When you're going around this locker room, when you're going around to see your teammates right now,
look at the
before
players.
You leave this locker room, remember that feeling, guys. That's what it is about. That is all that it's about. We'll talk big picture stuff tomorrow, okay, and all that. But what I saw today was a bunch of guys that were not leaving this place without that win, right? And we're going to fight with your brothers for 60 minutes, and I appreciate that. And I've told you, I appreciate you guys, how you practice, how you work in the weight room, how you work in the meeting rooms, how you fight yourself out there for 60 minutes. I appreciate you. That is what it is about, okay? That is what it's about. I know we can talk where, woulda, coulda, shoulda, all that stuff, but I know what this brotherhood feels like, and I appreciate you guys. Team on three. 1, 2, 3.
Nobody yelled out team either. All right, let me see if I can. All right, we're back.
I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ is right. This is delusional, and if this is what brothers fighting together for a cause looks like, I'll tell you what it looked like to me. It looked like a bunch of guys who were frightened.
No, that's what it looked like to me. And Tatum.
What it looked like to me were people who were afraid to make a mistake, and that's exactly what wound up happening. Donovan Peoples-Jones fumbling punts, and then once again the onside kick. And you look at Harrison Bryant, and Harrison Bryant is supposed to charge that kick in the air, not let it short hop him like that. There was no aggressiveness on his part to get that onside kick, and I didn't really voice that in yesterday's program. But these are things that, again, is why I do the day after shows, because we notice some of these things after the fact. They're afraid. And the reason that they're playing scared, contrary to what his belief is, which is, hey, we're all brothers in arms, and I really respect you guys, how you do this in the locker room and how you work out and this and that. actions speak much louder than words. And it is not going to be discussed on other programs that there was not a single downfield pass thrown in the second half of the game after Case threw the interception, the deflected interception in the end zone. There wasn't a single ball that traveled in the air any distance whatsoever. Now, I want to tie this in with a greater thing, because to sit here and complain about Kevin Stefanski, it's just one part of things. I got a tweet from somebody who basically was praising Jimmy Garoppolo for coming back against the Rams.
I believe that was me.
And no, that wasn't you. You liar. No, I'm kidding.
Jesus.
No, it wasn't you. But what had happened was a fan of the 49ers was saying, okay, all we need in this situation is good play call. Let's settle down. And the second it got put up, Garoppolo threw the interception that should have, by all rights, ended the game. Okay? But there's something going on in the league that is a prevailing current. And even Sean McVay, who is supposedly the offensive wizard, right? He's the guy who's single-handedly going to bring OBJ back to life. He's the guy who's going to make, Matthew Stafford into the quarterback he should have been when he came out of college, right? Sean McVay is the boy genius. And I remember when Pete Carroll was the boy genius too, by the way. All right. We always title people in a certain way. But he did the same thing that Kevin Stefanski did. We're going to let them use their timeouts, and we're going to run the ball. And 3rd down and 7, just going to run it into the line. And we're going to give them the ball back with a minute and 20 or whatever left in the game. And we're going to lay it on our defense. And Garoppolo went down the field, tied the game, went in overtime, and they won. And I'm seeing this over and over again. And it's really a peculiar thing. I come from a generation who believes that if you have control of something in a sports sense, and I'll give you an example for myself. I've played 3-hour tennis matches before, and believe me, when you get into a 3-hour tennis match, you ain't thinking about anything else than winning, because if you're that deep into the thing, your body is broken, and the only thing that's going to drive you forward is that I gotta win this goddamn thing. I played one match that went 3.5 hours. It was an unhealthy thing. The next day I had electrolyte lowerage and I had a small seizure. This was years ago in Vermont. It wasn't very smart. I didn't drink enough afterwards. There was all kinds of things. But in that last game, that last tiebreaker, and we were playing indoors on a hard court, and I am a clay court player, soft court player. The doors were shut because it was pouring rain outside, and they couldn't let the doors open because rain was going to pour in, water was going to pour in. It was like a sauna in there. 3.5 hours in that shit. I get to the point where I'm 1 point away from winning the match. And I got the serve, man. It's my serve in the tiebreaker. You have 2 serves and, go back and forth. I'm up by 1 with my serve. I can end the match, okay? I speak from experience here. And I have always said I'm the one with the weapon in my hand. My tennis racket and my first serve is a weapon. And I'm going to use that weapon and I have this opportunity. If you have a weapon in your hand and you don't use it, you don't deserve to win. I used to say, and I think a lot of people feel the same way, is that all you can ask for in the NBA is a tie game with your hands on the ball with less than 24 seconds on the shot clock. All you can ask for is one shot. Sometimes that's all you're going to get. You're playing on an away court and you have one opportunity. You're Kyrie Irving in Game 7 and it's the ball's in your hands with less than a minute to go and everybody's missing shots all around you. And you get the switch off and Curry comes out to guard you. It's the matchup you're looking for. And you got the rock. You got the weapon in your hand. You bury that three. And if you don't, you can't cry afterwards because you can say, hey, look, I had a legitimate chance to win. But if you just push the serve in and the guy rails a winner because you wanted to be safe and get the serve in, you've blown your chance and you're going to lose. That day, I hit a huge first serve in the outside corner of the box for an ace and ended the goddamn match. Almost passed out afterwards. But it's always been my belief that if you have the weapon in your hand, you use it. And if you're Sean McVay, you've invested all this money in a quarterback and these wonderful wide receivers. You've got, Kupp is a wide receiver. You've got guys. You've got Higbee as a tight end. You got the weapons that you need. 3rd and 7, you can end the game. And what you're really doing in that situation is saying, okay, we run a play, and if it's an incomplete pass, the clock will stop. How much time is that really saving us? And the answer is somewhere in the vicinity of 40 seconds. All right? I would rather take a chance to win a football game than to just give myself no chance to end it there and leave it into the hands of fate to go my way. Because we've already found out the hands of fate can be very cruel. You don't get an onside kick, you lose games in the last seconds on the last possessions. And when you yourself don't have the stones to have your quarterback make the play, and you've already picked off Garoppolo the last time around, the fact is you've given them new life. You've given them hope. And suddenly they wake up, go down the field, and that's it, man. Then the momentum's all on their side and the game's over. But I'm seeing this over and over in the NFL. The timeouts and the time on the clock is more important than using the hammer when it's in your hand. And I couldn't disagree with this philosophy more. And what's pathetic about the whole Kevin Stefanski thing is there's a goddamn guy filming that. And these players are like, what are we, like extras on a movie set here? And there's, Kevin waving his arms, and this is what it's all about. What it's all about is that he doesn't have the faith in either of his quarterbacks. It wouldn't matter who his quarterback is, because Case is his guy who knows the system inside out. And he turned on him. Didn't give him a chance to even throw the football in the second half worth a damn. That's what I don't understand, and what's so frustrating for me is that it goes against every competitive part of me. There's winning and losing. There's nothing wrong with losing and leaving nothing on the field. But there's this haunting feeling about losing when you know in your heart that you didn't do everything you could do. It doesn't seem to affect this guy, Stefanski. He's just willing to let fate dictate the outcomes of these games and not put them away. And it's going to kill somebody in the playoffs, too. Somebody's going to get wiped out of the playoffs because of the same damn thing. And if it were just Stefanski, so what's Sean McVay's story? You see, more and more analytics has crept into the game. I'll give you another one, and that's the head coach of the Chargers in a game that damn near ended in the draw that would have screwed the Steelers. All right? Damn near did.
Mm-hmm.
But what does he do? I mean, there's the point in the game where the clock is running down. If it ends up a tie, they're both in the playoffs. And the Chargers head coach calls a timeout when his opponent is ready, lined up in a certain way just to run off another meaningless third down play. It would have been a 57-yard field goal because it wouldn't have gone. I mean, that running play that they were lined up for wouldn't have gone anywhere. And what did he do? Mm-hmm. He calls a timeout. And why would he call a timeout there? Well, I don't know, because he was trying to run the clock out, because if the clock runs out, he's in the playoffs. He did the absolute dumbest thing you can imagine because of analytics. Well, you know, I want to remind the guys that if we stop them, that's a 57-yard field goal. And a 57-yard field goal only has a 42% chance of being made. I'm quoting you true analytic stats. 42% chance. You give up the first down and they get closer in that situation, and once it goes down to 53 yards, it increases to like 55%. Once it goes down below that, except if you're Chase McLaughlin and you're the Browns kickers, you know, then it becomes a 60% plus chance that the other team's going to make it. So he's sitting there running through analytics at a time where if he'd just shut the fuck up and let him run the damn play. Instead, what happens is his opponent came out on the field, lined up a completely different way. And the play, it gave them the time, the opportunity to think through what they wanted to do, and they end up getting it done.
Oh, and I'm not so convinced that Vegas would have ran a field goal. I thought based on all the comments coming from their players, it sounds like they were content with a tie.
Well, they did run it.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand they weren't going to take a knee. Anything behind the line of scrimmage will stop the clock. You're not going to like take a sack or something stupid like that. You're going to run the ball and just burrow into the line and let the clock run, and that's that. But all of this.
We have a Brittany sighting.
Oh, really? Yeah, Brittany's record shop, huh? Is that the same one?
It's spelled the same, so I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Hi, Britt.
And Peter, last two season games, Titans, Cowboys had leads with decent Baker and didn't really throw in the second half. I mean, you can't live. There's nothing safe about football. I mean, look at the Bengals. They were playing what for them was where are we going to seed in the whole playoff process kind of game. And did you see how many guys got wheeled off the field?
Yeah.
No.
Guys were injured, man. Guys were getting injured for the Bengals left and right. I'm just holding my head and thinking, Zach Taylor, for God's sakes, his depth.
I'm surprised that Chubb didn't hurt fucking Thomas with the face plant.
Yeah. And John, what it amounts to is philosophically, there is no middle ground. All right. I mean, if you believe that just turning it over to your defense, and let's look at what it does, because the whole notion of Kevin Stefanski saying, now this is what it is when we play together like a band of brothers and blah, 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 blah. It's not only is it not true, I mean, it's tone deaf, literally tone deaf. I mean, what's really happening on the field is you're turning it over to a defensive group of players who just a minute earlier thought they got the game-ending pick. I mean, they're slapping 5 and everybody's happy on the sidelines. And, you want that back on the field? And who knows if they spent how much time on the field, because they converted, like, what was it, 4 or 5 fourth downs and more, and equaling about 11 yards. I mean, the Chargers kept charging back, and defenses get tired.
Oh, the Chargers defense was completely zonked. I think that's part of the reason why the coach ended up calling a timeout.
Well, I mean, there may be, but that's not what he said. All right. It's nobody's going to say, well, that's what it is in analytics. And, we wanted to make sure we got that stop right then and there. And because we wanted to force him into that 57-yard field goal. It's hard for me to explain how a decision you make that took his team out of the playoffs. He killed them.
Yep.
And everyone was saying, and he was another one of these young boy geniuses, because, he's so brave, he goes for it so much on fourth down. But in the end, all of these types of, flinching at the critical moment is not a matter of playing together. The way you play together is defense makes a big takeaway. All you have to do is get one first down. You have the weapon in your hand and you use it and you get that first down. And if you try on the ground, you throw a third down pass and try to get the chains moved to end the game. And that's your way of thanking the defense for getting you the ball. Okay? That's working together like a band of brothers. But when you say, Case, you're not throwing the ball, Baker, you're not going to throw the ball, and we're going to rely on the defense. The defense is asthma led by, Myles Garrett. They're tired. And in a game in which they're not playing for anything except their money and their pride, you take the ball away from a 33-year-old veteran and you don't let him do what he needs to do, and he's in no position to say anything about it. But that's what it really crushes my spirit. I can only imagine how the players feel, and then having him ranting about it afterwards. I can only imagine. It isn't, he might tweak the scheme. What's he going to say? How do you reduce soft tissue injuries when the league is saying, well, we're cutting out preseason games so we can have more regular season games. We're going to shorten your preparation time, and we're going to put you out there on the field. I mean, it is unbelievable how many season-ending injuries to important players there has been in this first 17-game season. And it's all well and good to say he's going to look into reducing the soft tissue injuries. It's been a problem every year. It's not like something you can look into, unless you're going to hire a new fitness guy and, and come up with some kind of a unique thing. And as far as tweaking the scheme, It isn't the scheme in and of itself. It's the mindset. You can call a play out of the however many 100 plays, 200 plays are in a playbook. He just keeps pulling out those numbers that prevent the quarterback from audibling and force him to run 3rd and 7 draw plays and to run, double pitch flea flickers and all kinds of weird shit. And nobody's got any control over it except for Stefanski. And we need new receivers. Everybody agrees on that. But the problem is if you're willing to keep on playing Anthony Schwartz because you drafted him, and after, it's incredible what I'm reading online, from the people at Cleveland.com and the people on ClevelandBrowns.com, is that, all Anthony Schwartz really needs is an off-season with the jugs machine. And do you know how many times I've heard that before? If you have jitters and have trouble going over the middle, you're not going to catch the ball. I don't care if you can stand there over and over and over again with a jugs machine throwing the ball at you. That's like hitting your head against a brick wall and hoping that the wall collapses. It further psychologizes the problem that the receiver has. And the problem that Anthony Schwartz has, he had problems with his hands in college. This is nothing new. Go back and look at his scouting report. He dropped a lot of passes, even in an offense that wasn't passing that much. But people are protecting the way they philosophically feel. So this "let's film the victory speech by Kevin" thing is tone deaf and insensitive to the players, to the max. They're supposed to be enthused about winning a game that they backed into, and they literally backed into a win against a team that was playing at second string.
And they worked very hard to give the game to the Bungles.
Well, they were scared. In the end, it came down to that moment again. And, I remember last year we were in a situation and Janovich charged that kick, fell on it, and, that's what confident players do. They said, something? They look at the onside kick as one thing. But the way I look at it, these are my weapons. And if they kick that ball at me, I'm going to snag that thing, and I'm going to put an end to this myself. That's the way every one of your players should feel, is that they're doing this so that the whole team wins. Not for, and that's the problem I had with OBJ, where he was into the personal stuff and the glorification stuff. If you really want to play like a team, you do what you have to do so that others' hard work is rewarded as well as your own. It's not hard to figure out. So it's the whole thing's a mystery to me. And I don't believe with this particular philosophy that the team will ever win in any meaningful way, because we're going to keep coaching these games into closer and closer games, and the players will start remembering what happened. And this is what used to happen with the Cleveland Browns all the time, is that they got so used to losing in the 1-31 stretch. You remember that they would find new ways to lose. And it does. It's psychologically, it just really breaks players. And if he's going to continue, and in the first 2 years of his coaching, there have been far too many close games. I mean, when you had a quarterback like Baker Mayfield, who had thrown 27 touchdowns and only, 7 interceptions, and you're still playing really close to the vest like that, when does he get an opportunity to sprout wings and fly? At what point does anybody? And obviously, the answer is nobody ever will, because if Case Keenum, who is the person who is the trusted one with this scheme, because he was running it in Minnesota, gets the plays called in, and it's like, you're not throwing the ball. We'll let you throw a little dump-off pass to Demetric Felton. We'll let you throw a little dump-off pass to Donovan Peoples-Jones. Let him run with it. We'll have blockers out in front. Maybe we'll spring something. But you're not throwing that ball down the field again. So it's I don't see a lot of happy days ahead with this philosophy. And I see that analytics is taking over the game, and it's the only reason that the Chargers go for it for so much on fourth down is they look at the statistics. And analytically, this opponent gives up this many third down conversions, therefore their fourth down conversions will be susceptible. And, we have a quarterback who completes X percentage of those passes. And it's not based on what I said earlier about, well, I got the weapon in my hand. It's all about numbers, just like accountancy. It's all about numbers. There's more to the game than that. And enough said. Through all of this being reported now, Lamar Jackson has not even talked to the Ravens about an extension. Just like Baker, he's heading into the final year of his rookie deal, but still is saying he's not had any conversations with the team about his contract, even though he missed the final 4 games of the season. He said he was prioritizing continued recovery from that injury now that the Ravens are done playing. The truth of the matter is he said he was prioritizing winning during the season, was his last explanation as to why there were not any conversations about his contract. And here is the damning part of this. The Ravens dropped from 7th to 17th in scoring this season, despite going from 19th to 6th in offensive yards gained. And that's not the kind of change that anybody wants. This final line from Pro Football Talk, NBC Sports. They'll try to push things back in the other direction before next season, and the urgency to sign Jackson to a long-term deal will hint at their confidence in the quarterback's ability to take them where they want to go. Now, suddenly, the last 2 days, I'm seeing articles that are questioning whether Lamar Jackson can take the Ravens where they want to go. And, of course, he will. There's no way a front office doesn't get him extended. But the bottom line is, it doesn't take very much for these, it's like the old Wallace the Waffle Whiffer. Do you remember that? The little cartoon character for a product, for Eggo waffles. He could sniff out waffles, from anywhere. Waffle, waffle, waffle. That's the sound he made when he smelled waffles. Well, the press smells waffles. They're not talking about an extension. Then maybe the team's having second thoughts. And then all this crap gets started, like the crap about Baker Mayfield. And the after effects of all of what Mary Kay Cabbagehead had posted about Baker Mayfield. And it's funny because Terry Pluto came in and said, well, what did you expect the Browns to say? Of course, they had a decent exit interview and that everybody's getting along and that Baker's going to be the quarterback next year. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to draft a quarterback. And that doesn't mean that Baker's going to be here. And they start the shit all over again. The bottom line is that you have to play Baker unless he doesn't heal from the surgery, right? Which is, it's likely that he will fully heal. But there's no other instance in which you would have enough time to draft a quarterback and play another quarterback or trade for what is available or might be available on the open market and teach them this scheme and play the way we play and expect to win any more games than we won this year. It'd be impossible. They have to go with him on year 5, and they have to ride with it. The problem is the head coach needs to broaden his idea of what playing together is and has to understand that you're not going to get dug out of a hole with turnovers every time. Sometimes the offense is going to have a better day. Sometimes the defense is going to have a better day. But you've got to take advantage of the opportunities that you have. And when you're on offense, that means you have a great running game, and that's great. Nick Chubb is the number 2 overall runner in the NFL, and he missed a fair amount of time. He's an outstanding running back. That's a great weapon to have. We didn't get to see much of Kareem Hunt because of injury, but he is also a very good running back. But if you don't have go-to plays in your playbook with your receivers, timing patterns, and people who run sharp patterns who will get open away from press coverage, then you got the wrong receivers and you're not willing to take chances. And in the end, we go 3 and out anyway, and we punt the ball away. And then we get back to the old Woody Hayes, if you pass the ball, 3 things can happen, and 2 of them are bad. That's it. So, what can I tell you?
But Stefanski will never change his goddamn scheme. As long as he's the head coach, he's going to call the plays, and it's going to be his scheme. Period.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And we really do, and bringing in an OC with a fresh view of things doesn't mean that you substantively change the whole scheme. But it's like, well, here, and here, and here, and here, Well, what it's like is, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Gung Ho. It was
yes,
a Michael Keaton
one of
comedy.
my favorites.
Yeah,
one of my favorites.
But I mean, what's wrong?
Good luck in new job.
No, my line. You make me laugh. That's my favorite line for the movie. But what's wrong with the Japanese having a better way of constructing a car so that it lasts longer? What's wrong with that? If you want to have a factory in America and you want to build those cars and you want those cars to be reliable, you can learn something from those folks. And, we were making cars longer than they were, but the bottom line was they were making them better. And that's what we're really talking about, is taking a look at the playbook and saying, okay, this, and this, when we're in the 3 wide, we can take advantage of that lineup in a certain way, utilizing the talent that we have and having a second mind in the room. It's how we get better. It's how we build a better mousetrap, and it's not happening. It's and it is unfortunate that it appears that Stefanski outthinks himself, or lets the analytics outthink himself and be the prime reason for making decisions. And he'll sit there and shake his head, and I saw that. I don't know who Scott Petrak is. Do you know who that is?
That's another one of the Cleveland.com people.
And he claimed that Nick Chubb said that the problem wasn't the scheme, but that it was that people had to perform. They had to, the players had to perform. But I didn't see that quote anywhere else except from a tweet from him. And it wasn't a direct quote. it was a translation of something. And in truth, Nick Chubb was very complimentary of Baker Mayfield. But that had nothing to do with the tweet. So it's very hard when you have a bias going in from the press, trying to find out how the players actually feel, because they're making, in a lot of cases, millions of dollars and have millions of dollars hanging in the balance. And they're not going to tell somebody like me, it's like, hey, Mark, this is the way I really feel. There ain't no reason to do that. But at the same time, you got to go out and play 17 games. But it's got to be crushing. It's got to be crushing if you just have the game in your grasp and you're so close to making the playoffs. And every team tried to help Cleveland. You can't say it was just terrible luck for the Browns. I mean, had we won the way we were supposed to win against the teams we were supposed to win against, it wouldn't have been a problem. But all hope is abdicated when you just decide you're gonna, got nothing better to do, so you run the ball into the line. It just doesn't make any sense. And today was Fire the Coach Day. Brian Flores gone, Matt Nagy gone. Who is the other one who is gone?
Zimmer?
Yeah,
Zimmer gone, and Bob Saget gone.
Yeah. At the age of 65.
65.
Down there in Florida. Found him in his hotel room down there in Florida.
Yeah, and he was staying just down the road, 2.5 hours in Orlando. He had finished up a show in Jacksonville, and he did a 2-hour set, which is an inordinately long stand-up set. My goodness. And had tweeted the fact that it was a 2-hour set and that he was, really, it was, wow, I really am hooked on this whole thing, and went to Orlando and died. And there was no sign of any drug paraphernalia or anything like that. They're going to do an autopsy. But you know what I thought to myself? 65 years old.
He'd already be dead.
yeah, give up stand up. You'll be lying down. No, the first thing I thought was 65 years of age. He had been on TV shows, network TV shows, and he's still on the road touring at 65. That's a hard life.
Jay Leno still does a bunch of dates every year.
I knew guys who were stand-up comedians. It's a small fraternity. It was one of the reasons why so many of the comics knew that Saget had died very quickly. I mean, Gilbert Gottfried, for God's sakes, had just spoken to him like 2 days before. It's a very small fraternity when you get into stand-ups. And I worked with stand-ups and guys who were part of that, but they weren't filling houses in nice places. They were just going to whatever towns they could get their act heard. And it's a hard life. I don't know if y'all know John Panette. He was the real fat, heavy set comedian back in the 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
And, and he ended up dying in a hotel room in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, touring. And, the difference, though, George Carlin did, and if you watch his last one, you can see that he was weakening. But the beauty for Carlin is that Carlin he had HBO. He didn't have to tour the country. When you're big enough to do your own HBO special, the world will see you. They'll run it so much, everybody who wants to see that stand-up routine is going to see it. But man, if you're to a point where you have to go from town to town to town, it's very exhausting. But I was sad to see him drop dead. And who is Brian's friend?
What?
Somebody is trying to get onto the show called Brian's Friend.
I don't know.
And he's thumbs upping. Should we put him on?
Why not?
Hey, Brian's friend, type something that you want to talk about in the chat room, would you? So that I know what it is you're here for, because we've had all kinds of issues with people who are.
And Brian's friend, no, Jesus Christ is the Son of God, not God himself. So,
all right. So
there you go.
if you type something into the chat room, you can gain access into the kingdom here. So yeah, I'm just asking for a little help on this. All right. So at any rate, yeah, it was sad to see him pass away. But yeah, coach is getting fired. Gettleman, the GM, finally left.
Yeah.
He
But
finally
Joe Judge is still employed, which is
really questionable. So at any rate, yeah, and with Zimmer now gone, Tony, you got your wish, but what's that going to mean for Kirk Cousins, do you think, Tony?
He'll be a free agent after next season if they can't find us acceptable trade partner that'll take his contract.
Wow.
And don't listen to Bronk. He likes to drink out of his own toilet bowl after he's shit in it.
The heavy speculation is that because Cousins was Stefanski's boy, and that there might be a trade in the works with the Browns and the Vikings.
The thing is that there is no evidence, no proof, no real proof at all.
I wouldn't give up Baker Mayfield for fucking Kirk Cousins.
No, I mean, and he's old, and he's a career guy who's a 500 quarterback, and we've said this over and over again.
What's up? Good stats with good receivers. Put him on the field with fucking Schwartz and Peoples-Jones, and then tell me how it goes.
Dogtown Browns. I think that it's the truth that I think that the front office and the head coach aren't in step. The problem is that the product, they're willing to get the pieces through analytics to get the guys on the field, and then they're willing to let the head coach really have a large amount of control. And there's nothing wrong with that. The problem that we've seen in the past from this is that a guy can be a good head coach with really good help. And I always, not to denigrate Marty Schottenheimer, because he got us into the playoffs, but Marty Schottenheimer knew nothing about offense. He was a defensive guy and a conservative guy at that. And it wasn't until he got an offensive coordinator that they really were able to blossom and really beat people, win their division, and go in and get into the AFC championship games. And
signed to Sean Watson. Yeah, let's allow the Cuyahoga County rape line fucking ringing off the hook nonstop, 24 hours a day. That'll be great. Sexual assaults up 842,000% because of Deshaun Watson.
Tom, here's an interesting take I want to throw at you about this, because it's absolutely true. We lead the league in pre-snap penalties, but it didn't happen in yesterday's game. The one thing that I can say about Case Keenum is that he got the players up to the line of scrimmage and lined up faster. And go back and watch the game, and then go back and watch Baker's games. There's a lot of snaps that are running all the way down to the clock. We heard about 6-7 times where Case Keenum yelled out, "We're good, we're good." All right. So, but Baker's slower getting up the line. And I think people get antsy when you're running the snap count all the way down. That's how you end up getting those types of false starts. And in that instance, I'm blaming Baker Mayfield for not getting him lined up fast enough. I mean, the first thing that Stefanski said in his press conference was, yeah, Case got him lined up and got him out there and got him lined up. And I have to agree with that based on what my eyes see. So, I think under the circumstances, I think Case did as good a job as he was allowed to do. But he wouldn't be allowed to win games either. And he was not a number 1 overall draft pick. So nobody's going to get that opportunity in this system.
Case did a great job. Yeah, especially that fumble loss for a touchdown. That was spectacular. I could watch that fucking 742,000 more times.
Well,
that was just such an outstanding play.
Well, you're running the ball like demons, and so it does open up that rollout where he had plenty of time, but nobody was open. And you saw
he ended up one time he got sacked, and then the other time he scrambled for a 2-yard massive gain.
One time he scrambled for like a 12, 13-yard first down. But I mean, the bottom line is that he looked a lot like Baker, hung out to dry, when the entire right side of the field he had plenty of time to make the throw, but nobody was open. And, if I'm going to complain about it with Baker, I'm going to give Case the same benefit of the doubt. And, these guys are competitors. They want to prolong the play and make something happen, and something bad happened in that instance. And very often it will. And it's happened to Baker before, too, where he's forced passes that he shouldn't have, that he just should have thrown out of bounds. But the fact is, our team throws balls out of bounds all the time. All the time. Way too much. Because guys aren't open. And they'll say there was 24-mile-an-hour winds, and wasn't a great day for throwing. I completely understand that. But you can throw a ball on a rope 12 yards down the middle of the field, and if you don't even allow your guy to do that, big problems.
So can we talk Cavs for a couple minutes?
Sure. That was what a hellhole that was to play in last night.
Yeah, they
wow.
Completely outmatched, but that's Golden State for that they've got Clay back there. I wouldn't be shocked if they won the championship again this year and next year probably.
Oh wait, somebody wants to hear something. Hold on, and I'll be right back with you, Tony. Yeah, okay. And some are all here, and God Almighty.
Whoa.
That's more like it. Joining me is John Madden. They're back together again. He's rolling out, he's looking, nobody's open, and he changes direction and hit from behind. The ball comes, that's a fumble, and it's heading the other way, and 3, 2, 1, touchdown. The thing about Pat Summerall that was really amazingly good was that there would be large gaps. It wasn't like, he's at the 50, the 49, 40, the 35, the 30. It was like, picked up, and 3, 2, 1, touchdown. It's like, well, what happened in between? It doesn't matter. He scored a fucking touchdown. All right, back to what Tony was saying. Yeah, the coming back party of, it was too much. It was overkill. And I thought under the circumstances, there were two smart things here in the game. One is that they put Wiggins and his length and his athleticism on Garland, which held Garland to 9 points. Doesn't mean it would happen again. It just means it happened last night. We're not going to win with Darius Garland scoring only 9 points. Also, Evan Mobley didn't have his best of games, only scoring 11 points. But I'll say something else. I don't mind holding that team to 96 points either. Cavaliers continued to fight. It was just one of those, that crowd was just rabid.
Yep.
I mean, I swear to God, Thompson could have farted and they would have said, Beethoven, wow, he just farted Beethoven. And it wasn't that he had a great game. He was, 7 of 18 from the floor for his comeback?
I mean, rusty big time, yeah.
And volume shooting at will. But you write that down as an L, but God, when you tuned in, you saw what they were in. And I'm like, this is good for a young team because you want to know what it's like to play in the playoffs? You just found out it takes another level of intensity. And let's be honest about it. Cavaliers are young and they don't know what that extra gear is. Not yet. They'll get there.
And the only one that does is Kevin Love, and his has been broken for years.
Kevin Love had a bad game. I mean, the whole team had a bad game, but to be honest with you, they were getting to offensive rebounds, getting to loose balls. They had that extra juice. And again, this is a gear that the Cavaliers have to learn. You got to go out. You got to beat. If you're on a West Coast trip, you got to beat the Sacramento Kings. Or you got, and we lost to the Pelicans, and we should never have lost that game. We were ahead so far when we let them come back. You got to beat teams that you're expected to beat. You take a look at where we are in the East, and man, there are teams like the Celtics who got their players and they're not playing well. And that some of these teams are going to end up moving up. I mean, the Celtics aren't going to remain 16 and 19 or whatever they are. That's not going to happen.
Now, when you watch the games, do you get the national broadcast or are you privy to the Cavs broadcast?
Well, on yesterday's, when they're on NBA TV, you get the home team's broadcast team. And so I was stuck listening to, the pom-pom squad.
I found a stream of the Cavs. And if there's an injury, Austin Carr has had it double.
Yeah. It's like,
Clay.
I know all about that. I had both my legs amputated. And I had to come back with prosthetics. It's like, thanks, Austin.
Clay could have came back from testicular cancer last night, and Austin would have had a story about how he played with it on both testicles into 1987.
It's like back then they didn't have the surgical techniques, and it's like they didn't even have general anesthesia. The doctor came in with a big mallet and put the hammer down. He threw the hammer down on me. Yeah, it's like,
Motor Center. Fuck.
Well, I can't imagine. It was such a madhouse in there. I thought, defensively, the way it started out with Steph not missing anything in the beginning of the game, it's like, oh God, he's going to go off for 50.
Well, when the first basket was a fucking straight line drive dunk for fucking Klay Thompson,
they were excited, they were charged up, and the Cavaliers need to match energy, and that's what Bickerstaff said after the game. And these are things that young teams, run into. And, how do you bounce back? How do you come back the next game? And this is a prolonged trip. And it's going to be, these West Coast swings are not easy. We've won one and we've lost one. And if you go 500 on a West Coast swing, that's considered very, very good.
They shouldn't lose to the Kings tonight because that Kings team is abysmal.
Well, we shouldn't have lost to the Pelicans. The Pelicans team was abysmal, and we were up by 23 points, and we let them come back and win. So you just don't know. But to me, it's all a positive experience for the Cavaliers. Getting into a real sweat box like that, and just getting out hustled and outplayed by a team that's better than you are. Quite frankly, I mean, when you have a guy like Andrew Wiggins, who is supposed to be a savior for some franchise, and including the one that you cheered for, Tony.
Yep.
And and he's just a piece, you know. You know what it reminds me of?
There's a few words missing on that for Tony.
Yeah. But I remember when Ron Harper came out of Miami of Ohio and he came to the Cavs, and he was an all-star with the Cavs, and he was a scorer, but he was a great defensive player.
Yeah.
He went to the Bulls and helped them win championships, because can you imagine, he went from being a 20-plus point a night scorer to being the top defensive guy on the Chicago Bulls. And that's what Wiggins, you're able to use that athleticism, and he doesn't have to carry the weight of the offense on his back, because shit, you got Curry, you got Thompson, you got guys who can do all kinds of damage on the floor offensively, and so can he. He's still very athletic, and if you put him in the right one-on-one situation, he can blow by people and slam the ball through. You saw that. They're a better team than we are, but we're very young, and I would like to have another go at that team. I'd like to have a Okoro on the floor to rough up Steph Curry a little bit, you know. I'd like to see, or Thompson, just to really play more physically against them, to force those three-point shots to go errantly. And the Cavaliers were trying to play at pace, but they just were not in the flow. And Garland was taken out of the game. Give credit to Steve Kerr. Give credit to that organization. They've bounced back after what looked like was going to be a horrible fall from grace, and they've kind of righted the ship. And now they got the best record in the NBA. So it says a lot. So. And what time is that game on tonight? Is that another 10 o'clock start?
10:30, I think it is.
Oh, God almighty. I'll be long gone.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah. So at any rate...
what are they playing on the left coast?
Playing Sacramento.
9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern.
10 Eastern, yeah. Well, I might be able to catch a little bit of it just to see what happens in the beginning, quarter and a half or whatever before I hit the hay. Before I leave, Cleveland Browns fans, you can be in disagreement about whether it's Baker Mayfield, whether it's Kevin Stefanski, about who your wide receiver should be, who stays, who goes. We could be in the pain that the Indianapolis Colts are in today. You could be in shock, as every player on the team said, losing to the Jaguars in a must-win game. I mean, if you're a Colts fan, you want to cut your throat today. So there's one, again, when you control your destiny, that's a classic trap game. Do you know that they haven't won in Jacksonville since 2014?
Yeah, it's insane.
So you think they'd be up for that, And just we're sleepwalking, man. Just sleepwalking.
Carson Wentz just
I accept full responsibility. I started fucking Carson Wentz in fantasy football, and he completely filled out the box score. He had a touchdown, he had an INT, and he had a fumble lost.
Yeah, he just didn't show up. And in the last couple of games, Carson Wentz disappeared in essence. And, everyone thought, well, God, he was getting right back in line again, right where he was before the injury in Philadelphia. And now there are questions about Carson Wentz. So that's the way it goes. And I got to get out of here. It's 7 after 7. But everybody... thanks a lot for tuning in, and we're going to be talking more about the Cavaliers as we go. We'll be talking about the Browns too, because who knows from 1 minute to the next what might or might not happen. But I appreciate the support from listeners. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back again on Friday with the next installment of Moohead Radio. Until then.
Enjoy the replay, Key.
Yes, Key, and enjoy the replay. Hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.
Bye.
See you